When my son was 3, he started singing a Polish nursery rhyme that my husband's grandmother used to sing to all the babies in the family. She passed away before my son was born. We don't speak or sing Polish. Daughter from a severe brain injury when she was 11 weeks old. Was in a coma for 3 days. For years afterward, when it rained, she would comment, "Smells like God." So if you ever wondered what God smells like, you're welcome. Back in the day, my younger brother used to tell us about his other grandparents and the blue house they used to live in. After always telling him he was making it up, he told our mother he could bring her there. So we went for a drive, and this 5-year-old little psycho gave her turn-by-turn directions for close to 45 minutes. We ended up 4 or 5 towns away at a dead-end street with an abandoned blue house. Walking with my Tio in a cemetery by our house, she says, "Mommy, who is that man in the red jacket by the stone house?" She pointed to a mausoleum. There was no one else in the cemetery. "He's waving at me," she waved back. "He's coming over to talk." My daughter was about 5 when she says, "You're the best mommy I ever had." I said, "I'm the only mommy you've ever had." She looks at me and says, "No, you're the third one, but I like you the best." I was hiking alone in the woods with my son who was 7. It was eerie quiet. Out of nowhere he says the woods demand a sacrifice. Oh, another one. My kid's BFF started saying I'm a boy the second she could talk, very upset and agitated. Her mom thought she might be trans, started reading up. Then one day, "I'm not a boy now. I was a boy," starts sobbing. "I miss my sister." Her language skills improved, she explained further. "I'm a boy. My sister takes care of me. We walk to work at the factory every day where they make buttons. We speak Spanish. And then, I'm dead. I'm dead." Sobbing. Nightmares. Night terrors. My friend is in a panic. What is wrong? And then, "I'm dead because I got hit by a car. I was walking to the factory with my sister. The car hit me. It was dusty. I was dead on the dusty road. I miss my sister." My dad died a day after his day, so on his day we were all sitting and sad. My niece, 4 years, walked to my mom and said, "Grandpa is here," and says, "Don't cry. His heart is sore too." She never met him. Mom asked, "How does he look?" She said, "Like Auntie Mapular?" "Yes, I'm a copy of my dad." "All gonna die." "I know, sweetie. That's just part of you're gonna die tomorrow." On several occasions my son referred to the guy in our old house. "He's big like Daddy." But it's not Daddy, he'd tell me. Guy was standing in the dark hallway. After no talk of it for several months, one day he suddenly looked up at the ceiling and whispered, "Guy is back." 1991. Worked at pediatrician's office, screening a 5-yo for therapy. He lived in the country, no friends, homeschooled, parents had no TV. Mid-screen he looks at me, says, "Your brother saved my life in Desert Storm." I went cold and pale. My brother was in Iraq. I was watching a prep class while the teacher was out, and this little girl walked up to my belly, pointed, and said, "There's a little tiny baby in there. There's a little baby right there." I was pregnant but hadn't told my job. As a child I woke up in the middle of the night to a tall man at my bed rubbing my leg. I was afraid to scream. My parents never believed me. But my older brother fit the description. He died before I was born. I slept in his room and his old toys would often light up by themselves. Not creepy, kind of weird and beautiful. I taught a group of kids that included a little girl who was deaf and received an implant. She loved telling me all the new sounds she discovered. My favorite was that she thought cicadas were the sound the sun made until she saw one. Creepy, but waiting for a phone call to tell me how many days, weeks my mother had left after months with terminal cancer diagnosis. My 3 years old, not knowing diagnosis or about expected phone call, insists repeatedly, "Nana is okay now. Get call, cancer is gone." When my daughter was 2, I found her under the table with one of my husband's old children's books, turning pages as if she were being read to. I asked her what she was doing. She said, "Reading with Grandmom. My husband's mother died 2 years before she was born. It was her book." My niece was 7. She asked us why we were keeping all the dead grandmas in the attic. Then she laughed. When I told my 3-year-old I was pregnant and had a baby in my belly, she kept saying no. 2 babies. A couple weeks later, it was confirmed I was having twins. Twins were thought to be boy and girl, but 3-year-old kept telling me they were her sisters. So jokingly we asked her when they would be born. She pointed to November 28th on the calendar. Sure enough, they were born November 28th, 2012. When my daughter was 2, we were walking above a creek and stopped to look at it. She stared at it silently, and then pointed and said, "I died in there." Once I was at a really low point in my life. Considering giving up my teacher training, I sat in Baum Art Gallery on a bench, and just started to sob. Then a little girl with dark long plaits skipped over to me with a kaleidoscope, came over to me, ignored the fact that I was crying, held the kaleidoscope up to me and said, "Look, isn't it beautiful?" It was. She skipped off. Suddenly, everything looked full of colors instead of the blackness that had been consuming me. She knew exactly what I needed. A kid I babysat once asked me to play in the basement, and when we were down there playing, he said, "When they put you in a box, and nobody can hear you, nobody can hear you down here either." Then he bit me. My aunt died when my niece was a month old. When she was like 3 or 4, she asked to go outside and swing, so I took her. Her other swing was moving, but I thought it was the wind. My niece started talking to it. I asked who she was talking to, and she said Annie Mae Adams, my aunt. Putting my half-brother down for a nap, he goes, "Can't sleep with that mean little boy staring at me," points to the dark closet. We didn't take a nap, and went to the beach instead. It was my first. At the store. We'd had a nice day, picnic at the park. Suddenly, he grabs my hand, squeezes real hard and says, "Mama, when you die, I'm gonna make a little you so I can keep you always. Like with your skin and eyes, but probably not your insides." All smiles. 5-year-old, "Can I marry you?" Me. "No, sorry, sweetie, I have a boyfriend." 5-year-old. Thinks for a second, what if he died? One of my kiddos drew a picture of an airplane, and then said all the people in the airplane are trapped. I said, "What?" She then drew orange flames everywhere, and red blood anywhere else, and said they had all died, and no one would ever find them. This was the same week that flight from Malaysia went missing. Once when my daughter was 4, she waiting for me at the end of the hallway. When I reached her, I said, "Come on, kiddo, let's go." And she said, "Mom, I'm not waiting for you, I'm waiting for them." Then pointed at the empty hallway and smiled. Woke up in the dead of night, in total darkness. Thought someone had called for me, but all was quiet. Didn't notice that my 3-year-old had crept in and was standing directly beside my bed until he whispered into my ear, "I used to have a train set when I was a grandpa." My 3-year-old, "Mama, what happens to us when we die?" Me. Panicking, not ready. Well, 3-year-old. NVM, I remember. We become new again." Smiles, walks away. It's not as creepy as the rest of these, but I was babysitting for my mom's coworker, 6'7". He was playing some video game when he got up and somehow locked us in the basement. Standing in front of the door, he slowly turned to me and said, "Now you're stuck with us." He was an only child, so I was confused as to who TFUS was. I called his mom to say we're locked in the basement, and she goes, "I told him not to do that. He likes to keep everyone he likes down there." My daughter told me that the place she was in before she was born had a bunch of babies waiting to be born. Except they aren't babies there. They're all 5 and they pick their mom, and then they go in her tummy. I had just bought my kid a white stuffed bunny. His response, "When I was your dad, I got you one just like this. Then you didn't see me anymore." He's named after my dad, who I didn't see for 12 years after he gave me the bunny. We talked when I was 14. He died the next year. I woke up to 3-year-old kid number 4 petting my head. I asked what she needed, and she said, "I wish I had a piece of you that I could carry with me all the time like your finger." Haven't slept soundly since. 3-year-old alone in the tub, sitting to one side, starts getting visibly upset at nothing on her left side. Tell him I don't like that. Tell him to leave me alone. She started crying uncontrollably. He won't leave, reader. I got her out of the tub immediately. I came out of the bathroom to find my son waiting for me, 4 years old. He said, "The booby traps have been set." "Ha, good luck." Then he walked away. Okay. I got one. My classroom, our 4-year-olds back in summertime. We were on recess outside on a hot day, and the kids were playing like a pretend ice cream shop at the countertop in the play equipment, so one of the kids hands me an invisible ice cream cone. Naturally I play along, so I ask what flavor. He goes, "Skin." I'm like, "What?" Thinking he said something that sounded like that, like a real flavor, but I just misheard. He doubles down. "Skin, see those kids out there?" and tells me how he's going to make ice cream out of their skin. My son at 5 years old, "Daddy, I'm gonna eat you up." Yeah. I'm gonna cut you into little pieces." When my niece was 5, she touched the cross I was wearing that my late grandma gave me. She said your grandma gave it to you. I said she had. While she continued to admire it, I realized she wasn't asking. I asked everyone if they told her grandma gave us crosses. No one did. I asked her who told her about my cross, and she said I always knew. She was staring at a picture on my mom's dresser. She asked if it was of my grandma who gave me my cross. It was. She said it looks like a lady she saw visit grandma passed years before my niece was born. You died in the war with the Star-Spangled Banner, Daddy. The men in red killed you, but then you came back. He's 4. And apparently my husband was killed by the British in the War of 1812. My mom went upstairs for a nap. My middle son asked her if she was happy she'd be seeing Jesus soon. When I was around 8, I woke up one night to a man in my closet. He didn't say anything to me. He just looked at me forlornly and watched me sleep. A few weeks later, my mom told me about her brother who died before I was born. She showed me a picture. It was the man from my closet. When my twins were born, one of them took longer to talk. When she did start, it was in fluent Spanish, which we don't speak at home, nor does anyone who had come into contact with her at that time. In the night, my 4-year-old twins standing on the end of my bed. Me. What are you doing? Them. You don't see us, Mama. We're not here. When I was about 16, I was in a grocery store with my mom, and a tiny child I had never seen before suddenly latched himself around my leg. Wouldn't let go. Kept insisting I was his first mommy. Sobbed when pried off of me by his actual mother. Someone very close to me passed away, and a few weeks ago my 4-year-old daughter, the man has been dead for 3 years, woke me up around 2 a.m. to tell me Darian was in her room laughing with her, and she couldn't sleep because he was too funny. Comforting, but me? My mom and my niece were out shopping, and my mom picked out a dress, and my niece said that would look nice if you wore it to a funeral. On our way home from the store, my mom got a phone call that her cousin passed away and she wore that exact dress to the funeral.